All right, an unexpected development here in lowly, humble Vinyl Bear Studio in lovely, scenic Paju City, South Korea. I've got Airwindows Spiral2 exhibiting anti-aliasing behavior. Now, if you followed my content in the short time since I started this channel, early on I came out with something that I called the Frankenstein stack, which is a saturation core early on in my mastering chain, which is intentionally overbuilt. You don't want to have all of it on at the same time, probably, but it puts a lot of options there at your fingertips. All right, so anyway, in this mastering session, I had Spiral 2 bypassed. I don't use it that often, but I happened to click it on and off and on again, and I noticed something odd happening. So let me show you. I still have Auburn Sounds Lens in this chain. And I've decided not to use Auburn Sounds Lens. No shaded Auburn Sounds. Just, again, I'm working in 48 kilohertz. This would be no problem if I was working in 96 kilohertz, probably. All right, but here I've got lens right here. And I was going to remove it. But before I did, I just happened to discover this. So look what happens when I bypass Spiral 2. That is aliasing that's being generated by Auburn Sounds Lens. Later in the chain. Spiral 2 is earlier in the saturation core, early in the chain. And it's conditioning the signal such that when it hits Auburn Sounds Lens, it's preventing Auburn Sounds Lens from doing this. So I'll unbypass it again. And look at that. Okay, so but check it out. Here, if I bypass Tone Booster's real bus and I engage Airwindows 2 Tape 9, it's not enough to stop 2 Tape 9 from doing its thing, right? So this is just an odd case of Airwindows Spiral 2 exhibiting anti-aliasing behavior with this one plugin. It might do it with other plugins for all I know. But this is just for what it's worth. I thought I'd throw it out there. But as long as I'm doing that, I might as well show you what Gemini had to say about it. It's not that long. Okay, I gave it screenshots and I made the query. You know, how and why is Spiral 2 doing this? It says this is a classic example of forensic signal conditioning. By engaging Spiral 2 earlier in your chain, you aren't just adding flavor, you are physically altering the waveform's velocity before it hits the high frequency detector in Auburn Sounds Lens. There's a technical breakdown of why Spiral 2 acts as an anti-aliasing shield for the rest of your chain. The slew softener. As shown in the first screen cap, Lens is reacting to the raw 5 kilohertz sine wave by generating a forest of aliasing spikes. This happens because Lens, a compander, has extremely fast internal reaction time. When it sees the sharp rise time of a high frequency wave, it can generate jagged artifacts if the input is too pointy. Spiral 2, however, uses a unique saturation function that models a specific type of spiral-shaped curve. When engaged, it rounds the peaks of the waveform in a non-linear way. This rounding effectively reduces the slew rate, the speed at which the voltage changes, And even though the fundamental is still 5 kilohertz, the velocity of the wave is more controlled. 2, the pre-saturation mask. When you look at the second screen cap, you see the aliasing is gone, replaced by a much cleaner harmonic profile. The mechanism: by saturating before the spectral processing of lens, you are giving lens a signal that is already dense. The result, because Spiral 2 has already limited the peak energy of the 5 kilohertz wave, lens no longer sees the extreme transients that were causing it to trigger those inharmonic aliasing spikes. You have essentially preconditioned the audio so that the following plugins behave more linearly. 3, the presence control. In your settings, you have presence set to, this is Spiral 2 settings. You have presence set to 0.63. This control in Spiral 2 specifically adjusts the high frequency focus of the saturation. At this setting, it is likely acting as a subtle de-esser for the entire signal, softening the very frequencies that were causing lens to freak out and alias at 48 kilohertz. So, I actually hadn't thought to do this, but what happens if I tweak these settings here? Okay, well, no difference. See, you got to take Gemini and all these AIs. There we go. So input was at 0.45, right? So what's the shattering point here? 0.45? Where does it? Oh, it shatters right around 50. Begins to shatter 47, 48. Okay, you can see this tiny little needle right here at like 23. And then I'm going to hit 49, and there we go. So I just kind of like lucked out with it at this setting. It just happened to be this way. So I thought this was interesting enough to throw out there for you fellow Airwindows geeks. There might be applications for this. You might find use for it. I don't know. So it's worth putting out there. And next I'm on to, here, check it out. Check it out. I have installed experimental scene anti-alias. See that? Right there. And I'm about to try that. I'm going to sandwich 2 tape 9 between 2 instances of experimental scene anti-alias and see what shakes out. And I'll probably make a video about that too. So anyways, that's it from here. Hope this video finds you well. Over and out.